John Calipari leaves Kentucky to take the Arkansas job. And before we dive into this, I
Mm-hmm.
feel like it was a mutual split for one,
Mm-hmm.
and
Yeah.
I think both sides are happy about the split. And the Edge, Arkansas Edge, has pledged $5 million in NIL funds to Arkansas basketball, which is huge.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. So first, let's just have a moment of silence for John Calipari. Okay. Hurts me, hurts me that he's gone. I love that guy. I'm a huge Kentucky basketball fan. Went to Kentucky when he took the job. Um, I loved watching his teams. I loved watching him coach. I love the way that you just look at the way that his players interact with him after being at Kentucky, and he absolutely is one of the greatest coaches to ever coach basketball. I mean, just great motivator, great chemistry builder, great team builder. Maybe not the best X's and O's guy, but he did wonderful things in his 15 years at Kentucky. The only thing he didn't do was win enough in March. He won the one national title, a couple Final Fours. He just couldn't get it done. And so I know for a fact that he was advised that if he was willing to move on, Kentucky was ready to. Um, I don't know. It was a mutual. I agree. It was a mutual split. They both decided it was time. Um, I don't. I think if you got to talk to John behind closed doors, off the record, I don't think he was ready to. I think he believed that he could still get it done, but I think he also understood that his voice and his message had gone stale over the past 5 years, and the fan base was ready to move on. And he had so much respect and love for Lexington and the fan base and the university that he realized the right thing to do was to go find a different job. He wasn't ready to hang it up. He's not ready to stop coaching. He loves being around young men and molding them and helping them achieve their dreams to the NBA, because you look at it, he had 37 NBA draft picks in his 15 years. That's the 2 point something a year, and I believe first and second rounders. So that's he did that was always the knock on him, was that he wasn't trying to build a program that would win championships. He was trying to build a program that would put players in the league, and sometimes that worked out to where his teams were really good and they'd make runs, but it didn't work out anymore. And so, I hate to see him go, but it was a good run. I'm happy for him. He took a $1.5 million pay cut to go coach at Arkansas. He's still making $7 million a year, so don't feel bad for the guy. He's doing just fine. As far as the NIL budget of over $5 million, that's awesome for Arkansas. That's great for that program. I don't know exactly what Kentucky's NIL package was, but I promise you it was a lot more than $5 million. So we'll see if he's able to recruit at the clip that he was at Kentucky at Arkansas. I think it'll be a little bit less. He's not going to be able to get the same players that he got at Kentucky, but he'll recruit well, and he's one hell of a recruiter. I'll tell you that. You talk to the man and you believe what he says. So all in all, I think it was a good time to leave. He's going to go down to Arkansas. I really wish it wasn't an SEC school. As a Kentucky fan, I don't want to have to face that guy twice a year and then again in the tournament. But it is what it is. Happy for him and his family, and I hope he does really well at Arkansas. Honestly,
Which, with all of that being said, leads me to the next topic. Who steps in and fills the job at Kentucky?
absolutely, man. That's the big question, and I've already seen. Obviously Rob Dillingham left for the NBA draft, which wasn't a surprise. I think he would have left even if Cal stayed. But I saw the 5-star guard that they had committed just asked to be released from his letter of intent because he plans to open up his recruitment. And so Kentucky's at a really, really big tipping point right now. They're at a place where they have a bunch of young players like Reed Shepherd, who luckily Reed Shepherd is a legacy Kentucky guy. I don't think he's going anywhere. But they have a lot of young players. They lost Bradshaw to the portal already that are going to be looking at, okay, where's this program going and who's taking it there? Because I'm still regarded as one of the top prospects in college basketball. I could go anywhere I want right now. The portal's open for me because my coach left. I could leave today. And so they have a really big job to hire somebody that's a big name that fits the Kentucky brand, but also they have to get it done quickly. You can't drag your feet on this hire because you're going to lose all kinds of players in the program, and you're going to start losing those recruits that John had committed. You already lost one who was a 5-star. You only have, I think they only had 5 or 6 guys committed because you don't get big recruiting classes in basketball. So you're talking about losing an entire recruiting class. That would set the program back at least 2 to 3 years. So they need to move quick. I've been texting everybody I know down in Lexington, trying to get any kind of information I can. I don't have anybody that's super connected to the program or anything, so I'm not going to break any news or, tell anybody stuff that you can't find on Twitter probably. But I do have a short list of candidates that I've heard they are talking to and looking at. I think number one on their list is Dan Hurley from UConn, who's already come out and said that he has no interest in leaving UConn. But I do have some details about the deal that was offered to him that I'll get into in a minute. And it would be hard to pass that deal up, let me tell you. So Dan Hurley's number one on their list. I know that. They're also number 2 or 1B is Billy Donovan of the Chicago Bulls. Billy was I believe, grad assistant for Rick Pitino at Kentucky. So there's a connection there. I was told when I was a freshman at Kentucky and Billy Gillespie got fired, a few days later, I was told that there was a private jet from Gainesville to Lexington with Billy Donovan on it, and that was going to be the next coach. And then 3 days later, they hired John Calipari. So, Billy's been linked to this job for a long time. The problem with that is, like I said, they don't have time to wait. So with the Bulls right now, they have 3 or 4 games left. I think their regular season ends this Sunday, April 14th, I believe. Right now they're sitting at the 9th spot. So they're going to get into that play-in as long as they, maintain that position, get into the play-in and the playoffs, which hurts that because if you're Billy Donovan, the Bulls aren't going to fire you until after the season if you're getting fired. And realistically, he's probably not going to leave right now when they're going to try to make a run at the playoffs. So, and Kentucky doesn't have 2 or 3 weeks to wait to hire their coach. So Billy Donovan seems like kind of a long shot right now. The other names I've heard are Scott Drew from Baylor. That's another one that they're really high on. They like him. They talked to Jay Wright, who informed them that he was very happy with his broadcast role and he doesn't want to get back into coaching at this time. I've heard other people not even nearly connected to the program at all mention Rick Pitino, but I think they're trying to go younger. I don't think they're going to bring somebody like that back. So right now, I believe they're throwing an absolute Hail Mary at Dan Hurley, which, to give you the details of the contract that I believe was offered to him today or yesterday, they allegedly offered him a deal of 5 to 7 years, $11 million a year, which would make him by far the highest paid coach in college basketball. The next one is Bill Self at Kansas at 9.2. So he'd be making almost $2 million more than the highest paid coach in basketball. It would also make him the second highest paid college coach in the country in any sport, only behind Dabo Swinney at Clemson. He'd be making more than Ryan Day, Kirby Smart, all those guys. You're talking about absolute historic amount of money for a college basketball head coach. So I believe, and word came out when that offer was laid out there, that the brass at Kentucky went to him and offered it to him, told him, I understand you're going to want to talk to UConn, but let him know that they're willing to go higher if they need to, or if UConn matches the 11 million.
So you're telling me that Dan Hurley could possibly be the first college basketball coach to be getting paid more than the football coaches?
Yeah, absolutely. I believe, I don't know what number they're willing to go to, but Kentucky is in a desperate place right now. They are in a desperate place to keep their name in the conversation. They know that they've been able to maintain their reputation and their blue blood status by having John Calipari and getting highly touted recruiting classes and having all this hype every year, but that hasn't led to championships enough. So they've seen what Dan Hurley's done at UConn. They believe he'd be able to do that at Kentucky at an even higher level. I'm not talking about winning national championships every year, back to back, or anything like that. But they believe at Kentucky, you can recruit a higher level athlete than you can at UConn. And he would be able to build a team that isn't just one and dones like Calipari was doing. So they're willing. I wouldn't put it past them to go 13, 14 million a year for him. And it's because they're so desperate to get back to the Final Four and national championships that the money in Kentucky is all going to the basketball program, NIL, everything. But Mark Stoops does a great job with football, and they're content with him doing a great job going 8-4. They don't need him to do any better, and they're not going to pay him anymore or give any more NIL to make it any better. What they want first and foremost is to be the best basketball program in the country year in and year out, or at least one of them. And they haven't been for at least 5 years. So they are going to open up the checkbook and do whatever it takes to get a guy like Dan Hurley to lead the program.
I think Billy Donovan would be a great fit. I think Hurley's going to be tough. I mean, he's an East Coast guy. He grew up there. He's from there.
Oh, yeah.
The whole family's there. I think that'd be
I don't disagree. That's why I said it's a Hail Mary. But the one thing that can make you leave your roots and leave your family and leave all that is a big old bag of cash. So,
right.
And I don't know UConn's financial situation at all. They might have just as much money to offer him whatever Kentucky can offer him. I highly doubt that, because I didn't know UConn's a much smaller school and a smaller program, smaller fan base. I don't know how they could financially pay Dan Hurley $15 million a year. I don't know. Maybe they can, but I know Kentucky can and will do whatever it takes to get him right now. And if Dan Hurley goes, you know what? I mean, understand this: $11 million a year is triple what he's making right now.
Yeah.
I mean, that's life-changing money. That's generation-changing money that you're talking about. 7 years, $77 million. That's hard to pass up, man. But maybe Dan Hurley's like, you know what? I'm comfortable making $4 or $5 million a year. I'll get a little raise from UConn, and I don't have to move my family, and I get to stay where I love and all that. And that, if that's the type of person he is, more power to him. I think if they don't get Dan Hurley, I think right now their hope is they either get Dan Hurley or negotiations go long enough with him that they can keep recruits on the line, being like, hey, we're going to get Dan Hurley. We're going to get Dan Hurley. And then you don't get him right as Billy Donovan loses the playing game, and you can get Billy Donovan. I think those are the two guys they really want. And if all else fails, they'll go get the Baylor coach or somebody else that, is a good coach. What you don't want to do is you don't want to fire Tubby Smith and hire Billy Gillispie, right? They did that once. It set the program back. They had to get John Calipari to fix it. So you're losing a legend. So you got to go out and you got to make a splash hire. You can't be one of these programs that takes a flyer on a Seton Hall head coach or some Cinderella story head coach, like the Butler coach or something like that. Like, you need to go out there and you need to get a big name that people know.
Right. And I also heard Brad Stevens getting floated around.
Yeah, I've heard that. I haven't heard it from anybody in Lexington or anybody at all close to anybody in the program, but I mean, it's a big name. It'll be a cool hire. I don't know if that's something they're really playing with right now. I think that would be down the list if they got rejected by a couple of their big name guys.
Yeah, and we've already put the Rick Pitino thing to bed.
Hey, listen, I would love it if it was Rick Pitino. That'd be awesome. I don't think it'd be great for the program, but it would be fun.